Avlite webinar series. I'm Mason Sugars, Product Marketing Coordinator, and I would like to extend a warm thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. This is our second Avlite webinar, and it's an exciting one as we introduce you to our new and certified Avlite obstruction lighting range. Hosting today is Tara Stewart, President for Avlite USA, and Tara will explain the market trends and direction and also present a case study where remote monitoring control was central to the decision-making process. Just a quick note to congratulate Tara and the USA team who are celebrating their 10th birthday this week. Our Global Product Manager for Aviation and Digital, Wade Evans, will introduce our new product range. We'll also give an insight into what and why changes have been made. And last but certainly not least, Michael Walker, our Head of Global Sales, Marketing and Digital, will explain why you should choose Avlite obstruction lighting, and he will also host our Q&A section. I'll now pass over to Tara. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Mason. Technical difficulty there. Thank you again all for attending. As Mason said, I'm going to cover a little bit about Avlite and its capabilities, the market trends. I'll highlight an obstruction case for a solution that we provided to Central Hudson Gas and Electric. Wade will cover the obstruction controller and lighting range and some regulatory information. And finally, Michael will wrap it up with some more capabilities of Avlite and what's coming next for our Avlite obstruction range. Questions can be posed throughout the entire webinar, and we will answer them at the end. Avlite Systems was established in 2004. Our first products were solar airfield lighting for expeditionary airfields. Over the next 16 years, we expanded that portfolio to a complete solar airfield lighting solution with a Cat 1 approach. We also expanded the power input offerings to AC and series circuit constant current. We expanded our verticals into heliport and obstruction, also offering AC, DC, and solar solutions for both military and commercial customers. Our customer types include defense, government, civil, and humanitarian aid. Many of them require turnkey solutions that we provide, and many of them are in the most remote, tough environments. For example, we installed a complete solar airfield in Niger for the US Air Force at Air Base 201. One of the soldiers on the ground there told me that this was the toughest environment he had ever worked in. We've installed a catenary obstruction solution across the Niagara River, which is a very harsh environment during the winter. We truly believe that our purpose is to use technology to improve customer safety and efficiency across land, air, and sea. We are strongly committed to product innovation, and we understand and use agile manufacturing to ensure we deliver high quality, consistent, on-time products, making us a leader, industry leader in the global aviation lighting market. We have a complete line of third-party certified FAA products and compliant ICAO products. We also, we understand that aviation is a highly regulated market, and some countries use ICAO guidelines to develop their own regional requirements. So we have the lighting approvals for DGAC in Mexico, CASA in Australia. We're currently working with STAC in France to get some additional lighting approvals. We have 2 purpose-built manufacturing facilities located in Australia and the United States. Between those two facilities, we provide a complete suite of in-house manufacturing capabilities, including injection and rotational molding, an SMT line, CNC machines, a tool room, and across those functions, we have robotics for assisted automation. In terms of testing, we have environmental chambers and 2 complete photometric laboratories. All our product innovation is done through our multidisciplined engineering department, which includes electrical and mechanical engineers, optical engineers, embedded engineers, software and system engineers. And both of our facilities are ISO 9001 registered. In terms of the market trends, needs, and direction, we see an enhanced demand and need for obstructions. As the populations grow, infrastructures grow. We also see a pivot in countries that previously did not follow regulations and are now complying to ICAO, also growing demand and need for obstruction lighting. It continues to be a highly regulatory market, but there is a trend towards application-based requirements. It's not simply taking a light for certification. You have to take a system because of the control and monitoring requirements. When the LED was introduced, it provided some great efficiencies in terms of lifetime, better visibility, but night vision goggle pilots failed to see the LED because of its output. So there's a greater regulatory demand for concurrent infrared capability. As these number of obstacle markings grow, it becomes more and more difficult to do local monitoring and ensure that there's no faults and know when to need to do preventative maintenance. So there's a real need for enhanced monitoring capabilities. And then the hard to reach access or hard to reach areas where access is difficult, there's a need for reliable fail-safe solutions. So where a primary light fails, a secondary light turns on until that primary light can be serviced. And as you can see sort of in the picture, it's become more and more difficult to find real estate on some of these obstacles, so a reduced physical footprint is required. And as these projects grow in size, wind farms, large utility lines, buildings, there is not in-house specialist who can select the correct obstruction lighting market based on the regulatory environment. So looking for manufacturers to provide turnkey solutions. And now I'm going to hand it over to Wade.
Thanks, Tara. So I'll just do a deep dive into the product itself, which will give you a bit more detail around the specific product that we're speaking about and the updates that we've gone through with the various product. So starting off, we're going to look at the obstruction controller range. This is our sort of turnkey obstruction controllers. They come in a variety of sizes or a variety of tiers or types, being type 1, type 2, and type 3 over there on the right. So each of these controllers are designed to meet specific requirements and specific configurations that allow you to really build around applications and flesh out the obstruction system and complement it with remote monitoring capabilities. So the T1 controller at the front there, that's designed to really facilitate, say, an A0 configuration or an I1 configuration, which is the ICAO equivalent of that standardized structure type. It supports a single dual low intensity fixture, provides power supply, remote monitoring, control signaling as well. And then we move on to the type 2 controller. That's designed for a single medium intensity and up to 3 or 4 low intensity fixtures, obviously providing the same feature set that we just talked about in the T1 then, around control and monitoring, as well as the power supply capabilities as well. The T3 controller is specifically designed for the red-white combined medium intensities, as well as up to 3 or 4 low intensity fixtures as well. And that's really for an E1 configuration or an I3 configuration in the ICAO setting. And once again, provides those same common capabilities. Now, across the range, we provide remote monitoring capabilities for both SATCOM and GSM. They're always easy to handle and install. These controls have been designed specifically with installation in mind. Installation is a key criteria for any obstruction installation. The overheads for installation are significant. So these controls have been designed to be low weight, small footprints, and easy to install. That goes to the next point, obviously, around the small form factors. They're all designed to be outdoor as well, outdoor rated, hence IP65 at least. Some of the controllers have higher IP ratings, but the minimum we hit across our controller range is IP65. And then coming from a solar background, we obviously design everything to be as optimized for power consumption as possible. So we end up with the best in class power draw by really reducing and optimizing the way our systems are designed, and these controllers are designed to really optimize that power draw and reduce the overheads that come with increased power draw systems. Now, the controllers themselves obviously provide that remote monitoring capability, and that's all wrapped up inside of our Start2M platform, which really provides that holistic remote monitoring hub for all the assets within an obstruction system. So Start2M is our resilient asset management system. It has a couple of feature sets within it, within the platform itself. These all come as standard. It provides asset monitoring, asset control, asset management, and asset maintenance feature sets, which really provides a value add to customers when you're trying to wrap up these high reliability, high uptime obstruction systems. You really need to know when something has gone wrong, and Start2M provides that capability. It obviously has two-way communication within it, supports a wide range of telemetry types. We are partnered with Iridium to be able to provide that global asset coverage, or that global coverage of the Iridium network all over the world with that high reliability, without the dependency on things like physical infrastructure that you get with GSM or cell phone monitoring. The Star2M system itself obviously facilitates real-time alarming. As soon as an alarming occurs within the system, you will be notified. It allows for the generation of custom notifications and reporting as well, so that anyone within the organization or within the business can have that information transmitted to them, and it allows for that information to be distilled to the appropriate people at the appropriate time. Obviously, with any platform, any cloud-based platform, security is obviously critical, and Star2M itself utilizes AES 256 encryption and industry best practices to ensure that all that data is secured. We have no back doors. There's no other ways of getting into the system. We can't even access it ourselves, with the data being completely encrypted. So yeah, it's a completely encrypted system, and the data is always safe and secure. Now, before I jump into the fixtures themselves, there's been a couple of key catalysts to the update of our obstruction fixtures, and predominantly that's around the new FAA specification, or the 43J FAA specification, which really implements a few key updates to the obstruction range, or the obstruction requirements. First and foremost is around the use of concurrent visible and IR, which is now required across the entire fixtures. As Tara spoke about, that's the need to be able to facilitate that night vision goggle application space, where people need to be able to see these fixtures at night through those sort of optics. So that's rolled out across the range. All of our fixtures now implement that, and it's a key critical requirement that's come through with the 43J update. On top of that, 43J also updated the L810 and the L810F photometric requirements. They now align very much towards the way the ICAO photometric requirements are done as well. Previously, the photometric profiles were quite distinct and different, but now it comes through in a very common manner, which actually required an increase in power across the line, or an increase of effective output across the line as well. Obviously, increased monitoring requirements have also been rolled into 43J. As Tara spoke about, there's this prevalence and this need for enhanced monitoring, so that everyone knows when issues have occurred with obstruction fixtures, NOTAMs can be raised appropriately, and that's obviously been reflected within the 43J specification. On the ICAO front, visible and IR isn't mandated, but we are seeing an increased prevalence of IR requirements within the ICAO regions. So even though it's not mandated, we are seeing a lot of local regionalities or local regulators picking up IR as a need, and then implementing that across their countries and their jurisdictions as well. So we'll just run the video now.
Why is remote monitoring of your obstruction products and solutions so important? Compliance with regulations is mandatory and stringent. However, there is a significant monitoring and maintenance cost overhead. These costs can blow out, as reactive maintenance requires labor-intensive works and a time-critical response to avoid danger to aircraft. We aim to reduce your overhead without compromising safety and operations. This is crucial to the lifetime ownership cost of your critical assets. Introducing our new Connected Obstruction Solutions. The new range includes remote monitoring connectivity through wired, satellite communication, or cellular. The new range is certified to the latest FAA and ICAO standards. Through real-time reporting, the pain of remaining compliant and monitoring your assets is reduced, with proactive maintenance now possible, creating real value add for the asset user and business. Learn more about our new and certified obstruction products and solution range by visiting our website. You can also trial Star2M today to remotely control, monitor, and manage your obstruction assets.
Our connected obstruction range changes the way you sustain compliance and reporting. Maintenance, monitoring, and control are available for your certified remote monitoring enabled product and solutions via our Star2M platform. Great. Yeah, so that was just a bit of a video sort of giving an overview of the new fixtures that we're rolling out, but we'll do a bit of a deep dive into each of those fixtures now. So first up is the low intensity fixture, or the AVOLLI or AVOLLID, which is the dual variant of that low intensity fixture. So it obviously comes in both configurations, both the standalone fixture or in the dual configuration. The dual configuration comes in a couple of different flavors as well, allowing for concurrent use or failover use, which really hits that reliability requirement in terms of the failover configuration, being able to switch from the primary fixture to the secondary fixture in the event of a fault, which really increases your uptime as well. So in terms of the fixture itself, obviously concurrent visual and IR output, it's a single fixture. So in the past, we've had different fixtures to meet different specifications, ICAO or FAA, for example. We've now harmonized that into a single fixture. It's just using configuration to be able to select different settings. And that single fixture supports ICAO low intensity type A, type B, and type E, as well as FAA L810 and FAA L810F configurations, all within that single fixture, which is a real upgrade on the fixture itself. The internal diagnostics and alarm contact for remote monitoring is also included in the unit as standard, and it's also got a range of user configurable IOs set from a preset list of configuration options and alarm options around whether or not there's photocell control, for example, alarm monitoring, whether it's visual or visible or IR that has failed. All of those inputs and outputs are available and can be mapped for that enhanced monitoring and integration. It's got an adjustable operation mode, obviously, which is standard on all of our products in terms of dusk till dawn or always on. On release, it'll be a DC variant only, but it will be supported by a mains, universal mains, or an AC variant following at a later date. And it's obviously designed for obstructions up to 150 feet or 45 meters above ground level. We then move on to the medium intensity fixture, or the MI fixture. Once again, same theme in terms of harmonizing that product. Excuse me. Rather than multiple independent fixtures to meet the different standards, rather than an ICAO fixture and an FAA fixture, we've now aggregated those fixtures into a single unit. Obviously, it has concurrent concurrent visual and IR as well. But in terms of the standards that have been aggregated, it supports ICAO medium intensity type B, ICAO medium intensity type C configurations, as well as FAA L864 configurations as well. And once again, that's all selectable. There's no hardware modifications. There's no software modification required. It's all built into the fixture as standard, which really allows for stocking capabilities, but interchangeability as well. There's internal diagnostics and alarm contact for remote monitoring, like it was on low intensity. Once again, the user configurable IO is key. From that select list of preset inputs and output points, it's got the adjustable operation mode, dusk till dawn and always on. This unit will come with DC or AC or universal mains variants on release. And obviously it's designed for obstructions between 150 feet and 350 feet, or 46 to 106 meters above ground level. And then rounding out the product portfolio, we've really got the combined medium intensity fixture, which is our red-white fixture for medium intensity applications, or day and night lighting fixture. It's obviously got concurrent visual and IR output as well. It's a single fixture configurable up to 17 different specifications, because once you get into the day and night monitoring, obviously the number of specifications requiring support extends quite significantly. So obviously those are set from a wide range of available options, from ICAO medium intensity type A, B, or C, combination of A and B, A and C, as well as L864, 865, any combination of those, as well as the catenary variants, which are 885 and 866 as well. And obviously they can come in top, middle, or bottom configurations, depending on where they're positioned on the obstruction. And that can always be defined and selected in the product itself. And then that allows you that versatility to select if it's a top, a middle, or a bottom for the catenary application there. Obviously, it includes the internal diagnostics and alarm contact for remote monitoring as well. That's obviously critical across the range for the enhanced monitoring and control capabilities, supported by the configurable IOs, once again, with the same preset list user configurable options. The adjustable operation mode. This unit only comes with DC input, due to the restrictions around, the physical footprint. Supporting a internal AC unit on this isn't sustainable. So it's DC only. And obviously this unit is designed for obstructions between 201 and 350 feet, or 61 to 106 meters above ground level. I'll now hand back over to Tara just to run you through our obstruction case study and show how we'll help deliver customer success in that application.
Thank you, Wade. So a little background, Central Hudson and Gas Electric is owned by Fortis, a North American leader in the utility industry with 9,000 employees, serving customers in 5 Canadian provinces, 9 US states, and 3 Caribbean countries. Central Hudson is predominantly an energy delivery company headquartered in Poughkeepsie, New York, serving approximately 300,000 electric and 78,000 natural gas customers in 8 counties of New York State's mid-Hudson Valley. They have a 2,600-mile service area that extends from the suburbs of metropolitan New York City to the Capital District of Albany. They have a very strong mission statement, which includes maintaining infrastructure and delivering clean energy. So based on this mission statement and their need to maintain infrastructure, they started to look at their large transmission and distribution system footprint and came up with a challenge, which was that their critical safety area, the critical safety area that needed attention was obstruction lighting. So they had for a long time used incandescent lights. They required a lot of maintenance in terms of replacing lights and had become unreliable and intermittent, requiring continual maintenance. And if that wasn't enough of a challenge, they had to access 4,000 access locations in the 4,000-foot peaks of the Catskill Mountains. So they took this challenge and they sat down and they said, okay, what are our requirements? What requirements would we give to a company to really solve this problem for us and give us a solution? So the 4 main or basic requirements that we received from Central Hudson Gas was a solution that meets the requirements of the FAA determination for the infrastructure. The solution needed to be turnkey. They didn't have the in-house capability to come up with a configuration or solution that they needed to meet this challenge. They wanted remote monitoring. Not only was it costly to do all the local monitoring, just to see if the lights were working and then actually do the fault correction or preventative maintenance, they were having employees access these remote dangerous areas, and they wanted to eliminate or reduce that amount of access. And the final requirement was they wanted it to be off-grid. So we have a very strong solution department, and we really like to solve customer needs. So we took those requirements and we came up with the following solution, which was an A0 obstruction lighting kit, due to the fact that none of their towers were taller than 150 feet or 45 meters. So selected the dual AVO LLI and configured it to the L810 dual. We selected a T1 controller. We sized a solar power supply based on the location and the operation profile. And then finally, we added connectivity through GSM for remote monitoring. This remote monitoring not only gives you a text message or an email when there's a fault. At that time, there was also a portal. Since then, we've closed that portal and opened our Star2M portal. So all of their assets have been transitioned to our new Star2M portal, which gives them enhanced monitoring. So not only do they see the real-time status of the lighting, they also get the battery voltage, historical battery voltage, so they can determine faults, they can determine when to do preventative maintenance. There's a map that shows all their assets together for a quick overview of everything's okay or there's an issue. They get the ability to enter the maintenance that they do. So when they make these trips out and maybe replace a light or replace a battery, they can log all of this information and really have a centralized location to manage all of their assets. So the outcome was that Central Hudson now had the confidence that they were providing a safety around their installation for aircraft operations. They had met their corporate mission, they'd improved their infrastructure, and they also met the regulations of the FAA, the current regulations of the FAA. And then finally, they had a strong sense of partnership with the community in terms of energy. not that they lowered their consumption based on the installation, but they also had the confidence to know if the line power went out, they would still be marking these obstructions and providing a safe area for aircraft operations. We have a lot of these case studies on our website. They provide a really good insight to the applications of our products. So a lot of times when you read a data sheet or a manual, it's really hard to get insight onto how that applies to your needs or your solution. And beyond that, again, we have a very strong solutions department. So if you have needs or requirements, send them in and we can take a look at them and develop a solution for your obstruction needs. And now I'm going to hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you, Wade. I'll just take control now. And I guess we've covered quite a great deal on this afternoon's presentation. And I think if we just sort of look at a number of the key themes that leap out and try and make sense of that, I think it's really can be boiled down to three key areas. So first and foremost, it's about being a trusted supplier and a trusted partner, a reliable supplier and a reliable partner, and ultimately being able to offer best value. And so if we drill into each of those, there's been a number of themes. So if we think back to Tara's opening slides about, who is Avlite and our organization, it's really, really critical that we continue to maintain that deep commitment to research and development. So in terms of that ability to bring to the market and you, our customers and our partners, a whole host of turnkey systems or solutions. So as Tara just touched on then, for central gas, Hudson gas and electric, there might be a standardized solution that might leaps out of the portfolio, or we might need to pivot and do some further development. And so our mission and what we've launched here today is the next generation of our standardized solutions, our standardized controllers across the FAA or the ICAO, broken down into A0, A1, E1 for the FAA global market, or the I1, I2, I3 across ICAO, but where there isn't a need that fits that standard, and we get that for the many hundreds, thousands of customers that we're talking to across the world, sometimes that standard solution might not get the job done. And so leveraging our global solutions team, be that in the United States or Australia, or some of our integration partners, we can then look at your needs and be able to then adapt or design or expand a particular solution. So that trust is really critical. And that trust, whether it be working across the consultant, we can get involved in at the design. We can certainly get involved with the asset owner throughout the procurement that might then encompass the installation, and then ultimately about the ongoing life cycle maintenance. So being able to connect the devices in terms of the constituent fixture through a controller, and being able to connect to those monitoring all important gateways in terms of, is the system functioning? Is the status okay? What's the life cycle looking like in terms of power, solar, etc.? The second key element is really around reliability and being a reliable partner. That investment in our manufacturing facilities is significant. We're incredibly proud to be one of the only global designers and manufacturers where we do all of those key manufacturing processes in-house. So Tara, up at the beginning, touched on our optical engineer and development. We have an optical light range, a photometric gonio photometer. We're doing all of our own PCB and PCO manufacturing across our electronics line. And then ultimately, we're then manufacturing all of these particular elements, be that the injection molding and then the final assembly. So that's really, really critical. And there's an important reason why we do that. And ultimately, it's about trying to bring the best, most reliable product to market, be that the application or supporting how it's going to be installed and maintained. So key features such as being certified, that's a given. It's really important. But being able to harmonize that now in terms of that portfolio with those individual fixtures covering so many of those standards, that's a significant investment, but one we're incredibly proud to bring to market. The next piece is all about small form factor. Small equals lighter, lower payload, lower power draw, lightweight. So when we consider then a climber that has to climb into some of these really incredibly remote towers, sites, mountains, that ability to be able to support, all of those partners, all of those players throughout that successful installation is really critical. We've demonstrated a flexible approach to power, and in terms of our 40-year plus pedigree across working with solar and DC is really part of our historical pedigree that enables us to focus on not wasting power. Why is that important? Again, it's about that small footprint, and it's about optimizing the design installation in terms of customers being able to move from what was traditionally might be AC through DC, or being able to then shift across to solar and meeting some of their green or renewable energy targets, et cetera, et cetera. Then finally, again, being a reliable partner, that trusted partner, focusing in now on that key theme of configurable monitoring and those control interfaces. So we are a function of plug and play, and we could be end to end with our entire portfolio from the fixture through control to start to end using both satellite or cellular. Or if you need to then pivot out to an existing monitoring system, we've got your back. We can support that. And finally, it's really important in terms of being a best value supplier, manufacturer. That reason, or one of those overarching themes of why we have insourced our manufacturing, we don't outsource, well, it's all about trying to build the best product, the most reliable product, and ultimately the best value product. And so when you look at the entire life cycle, be that from the purchase price, the installation, right the way through its life cycle in terms of its maintained base, it's really critical that all of those features or inputs that we've considered both in the design and the manufacturing, they come to the forefront. So these are just some of the things that really sets us apart from our peers and our competitors, and continues to drive our business. In terms of what's next, moving from today and today's exciting pre-launch or launch, if you will, of the new FAA and ICAO harmonized obstruction portfolio, we've got a raft of new fixtures, developments that we're really excited to bring to market. So the first one there is a new SATCOM-enabled solar low-intensity light fixture. We're working on a couple of really unique developments around a universal gateway, which is only a matter of weeks away. Following that will be some additional products in terms of a smaller footprint, but the universal gateway or aggregator is really exciting, and that'll provide that ability to be able to connect up a whole host of Avlite or even third-party fixtures and elements. And then finally, there's a series of new obstruction kits. Wade presented today on the T1, T2, T3 controller, but we have a pretty ambitious roadmap to bring forward additional controllers across T0, T4, T5, T6 and beyond. So look out for these through wherever you receive your Avlite Systems marketing news, be that on social or on page or through our EDMs. We're absolutely looking forward to bringing these to you, our partners and customers. That concludes today's formal presentation. I'd now like to invite all of today's participants and delegates just to go up to that Q&A feature box just at the top of your screen. And we'll just take a moment now whereby I'm going to load that Q&A, and we're going to then address those for you. Alrighty. Got $1 US for the first question. Okay, a question's just come in now. Probably this one's for Wade. In terms of the monitoring, Wade, is there if a customer has a terrestrial land-based sort of series of telecom towers, is there a preference for satellite or the cellular?
Yes, obviously we support both. The control kits themselves or the controllers themselves can support GSM or SATCOM integrations. Obviously, we found that SATCOM provides a greater coverage and higher reliability in remote locations. So it'll all depend on where those physical assets are located. But we can support both methodologies or both telemetry types. It's more about fit for application. So if it's a remote located set of obstructions or set of assets, then you're going to want to go towards SATCOM just because of its ensured reliability and its ensured coverage. If it's in a dense space, a dense population space with sufficient cellular coverage, then that's also an option as well. But then there's also pros and cons of both methodologies. Yeah,
thanks, Wade. There's another question here. can Avlite supply cable and some of the other fixtures, or what's, I guess to rephrase the question, what's Avlite's approach to cabling and some of the additional connectors and things?
Yeah, so we can, we've got standardized kits to meet sort of the standardized application spaces of A0, A1 and E1. And those kits themselves, in some instances, will come with cabling. When it's you know, predefined, we can supply cabling, but we're also always able to supply cabling if it's known up front. And we can also work with customers and integrators to supply the appropriate cabling to meet, you know, the appropriate application requirements, power consumptions. You know, if you're talking about a DC or a solar system, cabling becomes really critical. So we can always assist with the design component around the cabling as well. All of our products always comes with our standardized interfaces, which means that, you know, ultimately we have criteria within our user manuals and our documentations that allows you to select appropriate cabling if you want to supply it yourself. But we're always able to supply cabling as well.
Yeah, thank you, Wade. The next question that's come in, it's a really good one. I was looking in particular for obstruction light for the very high wind turbines that are now being manufactured in excess of 150 meters. Would this be in the Avlite range? I'll perhaps go to you, Wade, again.
Yeah, so it'll depend on what's been regulated for the specific wind turbine installation. I think a CMI might meet the need. It all depends on what's been regulated in the local location and the local regulator for what needs to be lit. But we've done a lot of wind turbine installations using you know, the MI fixture and in several instances the CMI fixture as well. We've been able to integrate to the existing power systems within the nacelle of the wind turbine, as well as providing supplementary low intensity lighting as required as well.
Yeah, thanks, Wade. And a similar question, I guess, for Tara. North American wind offshore, has Avlite had any experience with doing offshore wind in North America?
I don't believe that we have to date. I think that I can't think of one that we've done. No.
It's certainly, though, it's an emerging space, and it's one that we've been certainly engaged in with a number of the early designers.
Yeah, we are engaged with early designers, that's true, because there's only been a few offshore wind turbine locations that have actually been launched to date. So there's a lot of activity in pre-design.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. And the next question is, with regard to solar, how does Avlite, I guess, do the solar calculation, or how does it validate that something's going to be functional or working?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different mechanisms. When it's a standalone fixture or a standalone solar fixture, obviously there's some automated tools on our website that allow you to run those calculations as a user yourself. But when it comes to more enhanced and more complex obstruction lighting systems, where we're talking about multiple fixtures, controllers, specific cable runs, a lot of losses in the system through cable, then we end up running that through, say, our solutions function, which allows us to run, you know, detailed solar calculations and make an assessment on autonomy, sustainability, whether or not the specific region itself is going to be able to service what the nominated solar power supply is. And the alternative of that is that we can also nominate the appropriate solar power supply that'll meet all the needs and all the requirements for those specific locations and applications and use cases, because use cases become really critical when it comes down to solar calculations.
Yeah, thank you, Wade. And thank you, Tara. I don't have any further questions at this time, so I think we'll just move through. We're sticking to our timetable. So I'll just move to the next slide when ready. Thanks, Mason. Yeah, thank you. So that concludes today's formal presentation. We'd just now like to invite each of our attendees today, if you could just take part in a short 60-second survey at the conclusion of the webinar. It's really critical that we capture that feedback to ensure that we continue to take on board your ideas and suggestions and feedback so that we can continue to optimize these. Look out for our aviators for our next webinar, which will be in late November as we take a look into our airfield range. And stay tuned for our upcoming obstruction case study, which will be released next week. And wherever you receive that, across your traditional email or your social media channels, we look forward to bringing that to you. And so on behalf of Tara Stewart, Wade Evans, Mason Sugars, and myself, wherever you are today, we thank you. Take care. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you.